Us and the collaboration we're going to have going forward.
No better way to communicate to your audience.
How do we grow strategically now that we've gotten the right path forward? Here we are. Happy Friday, everybody. Todd Schroth here with Agents Who Win with our team member, Brooke Green. Brooke, I really appreciate you being here. This week, I wanted to come to everybody, or not this week, this next series we're doing is like why the team model can work for a lot of agents. And so we wanted to come back with some of our team members to see, hey, how come they chose a team, how it's working for them, etc. And, our team growth has been great this year. And, and I've just done a show before this about some same question, why a team? So, Brooke, I really appreciate the hustle and appreciate you being here and kind of being our first guest on this series of November of Why a Team.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. This is fun.
Awesome. So let's start with the question number one, why real estate?
It's funny because ever since I was younger, I've always been interested in real estate. I love the business side of things. But I felt like for so long, I had my heart on teaching, and I was a teacher before this actually. So I did that for a while. And, going through COVID just kind of switched my mindset on a couple things and kind of got me to open up and really think what I want long-term. And, obviously with COVID happening, with the education system, I've learned a lot about how teachers are treated, and I could go into that. But for the most part, I finally decided that I should take a chance on this and start something that I've been interested in for so long. And I'm so happy I did. I have family members in real estate. My mother's in real estate actually, which she was the one to really encourage me, along with my support system. So they kind of gave me the extra nudge to actually get in here and get going. So I'm happy I did.
Well, they say that the teachers, one of my son's kindergarten teacher, son and daughter's kindergarten teacher became a realtor as well. And, teachers make, I think, great real estate agents. And because you have to have patience. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you lose your patience, through teaching, but she was a teacher for 30 years. So she's gained a lot of patience, especially being a kindergarten teacher.
Yes.
But it's you like to help and develop people. And correct me if I'm wrong in any aspect of this.
No, you're completely right.
You're coming out of the daycare side, so you're going to graduate yourself into the teaching mode. But sometimes the buyers and sellers are just like a bunch of little kids running around trying to control them and rein them back in. So I think you came out of the right area for this.
Yeah, it's funny how applicable it really is, especially with the patience thing. And it also taught me. Being a teacher, you had to talk about a lot of hard things with parents sometimes. So being able to have those hard conversations really prepped me for, obviously real estate is very different, but it's a life altering decision people are making in real estate. It's a huge, if not the biggest financial decision someone will make in their lifetime. So it's a very serious situation in a sense. So I think that really kind of made that transition a lot easier for me. Some people don't get that experience whatever they were doing before real estate. So I'm thankful that, prepared me to be where I am now.
No, it's you have to pivot quickly with real estate and like deadlines and all kinds of stuff. And it's like the homework's due on this date. If you don't turn it in, ironically, you could turn in homework late. You can't miss deadlines on this stuff. And so it's like making sure you pay attention to that stuff. So diving in, and I like the teacher aspect of real estate because it's like you find your mode there. Nurses are also great real estate agents because, again, they've got a caring aspect to them. So it's all disc profiling of like, okay, where's my profile? What am I good at? And that's how I'm going to pay attention to the business itself. Mm-hmm. So diving in, you got your license, and ironically, you got it in like the worst year ever that should have been for real estate, which was the best year, but for real estate because the amount of homes sold. And like for me personally, 20 years in this business, last year was my best year ever. Yeah. And it was just a lot of people making moves and doing things. So what made you want to do it in 2020?
Going back to the whole COVID thing, especially with making that final decision that I was going to fully go into it. I think I'm an emotional thinker sometimes. I'm also trying to think with logic, as we could all wish we say. But when you think about what I was really looking at the market and how busy it really was, and things are opening back up and people are wanting more space and everyone's buying a home, if not some of my friends were purchasing homes, and it really made me realize how hot it was at the moment, the market. So I think that was good for me. It was kind of like the cherry on top. Okay, this is, what I needed in order to feel confident in my decision and to, get into the industry because it was so busy. So, I learned a lot through such a busy first year in a great way. I'm very thankful. But I think knowing that it was busy and that I felt a little more confident in that kind of just really gave me that final push to do it.
So I have to pick on you for a second. And I want to say that don't give up in, getting started. How many times did you take the test?
Oh, it was a handful of times and it was like 74, 73. So I definitely didn't get it the first try. So that was really frustrating, but I kept at it. So, I mean, I'm here. So
my biggest motivation speech to you every time, it was like, I know some great realtors who have taken it 8 times and they're some of the best people in the business. And I know some really bad realtors who passed it on the first try because they're good at test taking. And I am one who already planned to fail because my practice test, I got a 30 on. The teacher's like, what did you get? And I was like, 32. He goes, okay, it looks like you'll be back.
It's so true.
So I planned on taking the week's crash course again. And that was the class test I was planning on failing. And I walked out and I passed. I was like, holy crap, awesome. And then when I walked out of the state test, and I'm bad at tests. I mean, my teachers in school would give me like so much leniency with things. Yeah. Like, we'll let you take it 10 questions at a time. I'm like, cool, thank you. And fortunately, the state doesn't let you do that.
I know.
And when I walked out passing, I was like, oh, hallelujah. But I'd already planned to take the week's crash course and just do it again. And, ironically, it didn't. I mean, I got out of it. But the teacher reminded us that there's some people who've taken it 7 times and are some of the best agents that are out there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter because there's so much you have to learn. Like, here's a question for you. How many square feet are in an acre? How many people have asked you that?
None. They don't care. They want the house.
Exactly. I just know it's an acre. That's all I need to know. Is it 1 to 2 or 2 to 5? It doesn't matter.
Right.
We want to know square footage of houses. Yep. So, now that you've passed, as you were diving in to see where you wanted to go, what was like your next step after you've passed the test, or while you were taking the test? Because I know we connected before you passed the test. Because we were giving you the encouragement to keep trying. Yeah. What was the decision like? Where were you searching for like your next direction or your first direction? Was it like going to a brokerage? Was it going to a team, or did you even know anything about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm thankful enough to where I actually know a good bit of people in the industry through family and friends. And so I set up phone calls and, did my research and asked for advice. And what would you do if you were in my situation? Really seeked out that counsel from people that were already in the industry that knew me well. And I asked, where I would be fit best at. And just from I played volleyball too. I've always been on a team since I could last remember, really, some sort of team, whether it's sports related or, in teaching, you're in a team almost with the other class. I taught pre-K, so me and the other pre-K teacher had to be a team together. I've always had that. And I love that. I love the collaboration. I love the, picking each other's brains, learning from each other, learning together. That was really important to me. So I kind of realized once I decided that I was going to do the agent role, because, there for a bit, I was trying to figure out if I, should find an opportunity more so like a showing assistant. So I finally figured out I wanted to just dive on in and give it my all, commit everything to it being just an agent. So I made that realization, and then going through and figuring out, then I wanted more of a team aspect. I thought for me personally, since I'm so fresh in the industry, to be honest, when I started, I did not know a whole lot of anything. So what was really also important to me was that besides the teamwork was making sure I had good training, making sure I had mentors or people that were willing to pour into me and see my potential as well. Thankfully, you and Angela and, everyone else in the office have just absolutely done that and more. So I'm very thankful with our team specifically. But other than that, I realized that was more the role for me was that team. And then I ended up here. So it works really well for me. I know everyone's a little different, but for me, those were my important things that meant a lot to me. And I thought where I could use for my career, like the longevity of my career, was best for me to go this route in the beginning.
No, that's great stuff, because there is, there's no I in team. And as I say, it's all we business, not an I business. And when I was doing it on my own, I was doing everything. And from the paperwork to showing the houses to running crazy. And, now even just if you're on your own, it's like create a team and have an assistant help with stuff or a transaction coordinator to help with things. The show I was just on before this, or the class I was on right before this, we were talking about like find your niche. Don't try to specialize in everything. As we're talking about niches with you, as we're like with some things that you have that can come into play, it's like you find a niche, maybe that's it. But there's a bunch of niches in real estate, from marketing niches. Maybe I'm going to be the Instagram king or queen. Maybe I'm going to be the Facebook leads guy. Maybe I'm going to be the PPC guy. Maybe I'm going to be, like Jeff, the open house king. You find your niche and you keep working it. Don't be the open house guy while trying to become the YouTube king and while be trying to become this guy, that guy or that girl. Unless you have a team running behind you, it's hard to do.
Right.
And it's being part of the bigger picture, and we appreciate, and we love pouring back into the agents because we have a lot to give back, and we've been doing this a long time, and we love giving back and doing that. What would you say the top things you're looking for, when you were searching for a team? What were some of the top things that you were trying to find, or any agent's advice you can give them out there?
Yeah, for me personally, alongside the mentorship and the training, those are my two top things. But I also just wanted people where I felt comfortable with. Sometimes, you're in a situation where you might not really know the people, or you might feel a little awkward, and that really doesn't bring out your greatest potential. So I wanted me, I'm comfortable around really anyone, but certain people click and it feels right. And so I just wanted that to feel right. And I interviewed with a couple other teams, I did. And just as anyone probably did as well. And I never got that moment of like, okay, I would feel comfortable here. I can see myself growing. So that was really important too, is just making sure like it felt right, which at the end of the day, it should. You're pouring into yourself and your business long term. So having that feel right is going to make that, decision much more confident for you.
So let's talk about that. When you were comparing teams, what were some of the differences you saw between the teams?
I think just like personality.
This is an interview question.
Yeah, right. This is a good one. I think just I Zoom call. I think, it was interesting because it was, it's in the middle of COVID, of course. So that was like interesting in itself because I couldn't really go into person besides, when I did like my final interview with you, for instance. But regardless, just I think that was the hardest part, is being on the Zoom calls and like just having all these questions, which it's fine. Like it's an interview. It's going to have those kind of things. But I was nothing was more like a conversation. It wasn't necessarily just like, I remember you asked me, like, what are your goals? Like, what made you be in this business? Like, tell me about you. And like, I that's what kind of like clicked for me, is that it wasn't just about the business. It was also about you as a person, which I didn't get that from a lot of places. Everyone's different. And some people are like, I don't care. Like, that's great if you care about me as a person and everything, but I'm here for business. For me, that's just not how I work. So I'm a people person. I'm a relationship person. So that was really important to me. So that was something that really like stuck out. But for the most part, it was a lot of questions rather than conversations.
Right. No, and it has to be, because I think the interviews have got to be a lot of Q&A, because we need to learn about you, the agent,
right?
And then you'll learn about us. And if it's a click, then all right, cool. Let's set up the second or third interview. So I think it's funny too with the Zoom interviews, because you never know how they show up to the Zoom is how they're going to show up to work.
Right.
And you showed up in a business suit, at least from waist up. I don't know if you had pajama bottoms on or what, but most people are like gym shorts and
I probably did.
Yeah. But that's like how they show up to the Zoom is how they're going to show up to work. And if they can show up to the Zoom correctly, then I think they're going to be, that's like that's the best first impression for things. And half the people, we're in technology. I mean, and half the people I would interview on Zoom couldn't figure out how to get their camera on. Like, you should be able to see yourself. They're like, it's not on. Like, no, it's move your finger, So that was a big thing.
Very true.
What are like some of the things that you look for? I'm just trying to like dive into like the why the team a little bit more, and the differences between the teams. Were some of the teams like just like leads teams, or was it culture teams, or was it like the size of the teams? I just want to see some learn some differences there for people when they're going out to talk with, do interviews and stuff.
Yeah. There was one team that was more of like a startup team, and they were unsure about a lot of things. So that was
That's a
one.
challenge.
And I'm sorry.
That's a challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's sometimes a challenge is good, but for me, where I was, starting out, I didn't think it was the right fit necessarily. And
Yeah.
there was a lot up in the air about lead generation and how this process would be handled. So knowing I would be going into that being fresh, I thought wasn't a great fit for me. They were very nice people, have nothing bad to say, of course, but it just wasn't, didn't align with me and what I was looking for. So that's why I kind of passed. And then another one was a little more hands off, you're an agent on the team and we'll provide you X resources, but we didn't get, they don't necessarily like meet every week for a team meeting or have trainings, or necessarily have even an office to go into. So, and those are all things that were important to me. So it was just kind of like taking your list and, comparing them. And, it's like how we advise buyers, like what are your top 3 most important things, right?
Yep.
So when you're shopping that around almost, you got to keep your list of important things, your non-negotiables. This is what I want and I'm confident in it. And then you have the things, where it's like, don't love this, but I'm willing to, like, it's not necessarily a negative. So I'm willing to be okay with it.
Right.
So that's kind of how I went about the process, is comparing all the different teams.
Right. No, that's good because, like, we are ever evolving with things. I feel like we have a lot together, but there's also we're growing, and it's funny as you become a team leader. It's another business because there's so many things that come into play, and I'll go to a class or watch something. I'm like, wow, we should try that, and or we should make that adjustment. And you've got to be growing and evolving as agents and team leaders and stuff.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would love to see in addition to the team?
I think it's also was important for me is, even though I'm with a team, I wanted to also like where I'm at with my brokerage, and appreciate that. And they provided a lot of resources online, which I liked.
Yep.
And that's kind of why everything kind of just fell into place and it made sense for me, because I wanted that training. We got a lot of it in person, like with the team, for instance, but it's also important to have your own training outside of it. So that was kind of what helped make my decision, as well as being able to go on and have your little avatar thing, go through the whole world where we're at, and go through this training or have this guest speaker. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I really like that too. So I think it just kind of depends. Like that was important for me. But
I love our team meetings every week because it does give a chance for everyone to come together and meet and see each other. And I'm not a Zoom guy. I don't want to have everyone on Zooms because it's like questions, and if you're not answering me within 30 seconds, I'm like, all right, cool, we're done.
Yep.
But it takes someone a minute or two to like want to speak up. And as I'm teaching classes and I'm to other agents, and you just see the silence in the room. And it's like, okay, guys, any questions? And everyone just like the blank stares. Like you got to like throw questions at them and like I guess get their engagement. But it's all good stuff.
For sure.
Brooke, I wanted to appreciate you jumping on. Let me just click this off. There we go. I appreciate you jumping on here. And then if there's anything else you think we should be diving into our audience with, or any tips, tricks, or secrets, or like, what do you see yourself, let's say 5 years from now?
It's funny you say that. I try my best every month to, sit down and write my goals out for the month. And then I also kind of take a peek at my long-term goals to see if, we're aligning in the right sense. I'm a very like goal-oriented person. So it's funny to be brought up.
Yes.
So my 5-year plan would to be starting to dabble on the idea of my own team, or maybe a little after that 5-year mark. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that's in my future for a fact. Obviously, sitting here and me answering all these questions about how much I love a team and how much I feel about that, I think I'd be very good in that aspect. I know I'm young and I know I have a lot to learn, and I'm well aware of that. But I think if I, keep growing how I'm growing, like I did this first year, I think I'd be on pace to take on that responsibility and challenge.
Well, you're a great teacher, and you love giving back and helping the other agents that are around. And I mean, that's a big thing that creates great leadership. And I've got some friends that are in their mid-20s that are starting teams, and I'm just like, you haven't even sold a house yet. What do you mean you're running a team?
Yeah.
And you've got to have some background, because I'm supposed to be, I'm not a real estate broker. put that out front, but you're supposed to be the one to come to for advice, constantly for a lot of different things. And, agent, team leader, a lot of experience, but there's still things that I got to get questions on. And, they're haven't sold a single house yet. And like, what are they doing? But I love the goal there, because that's something we can help put together as we grow. And the beauty of this company that we're involved in is, I've had agents leave 2 years later. They're starting their team, or they're just wanting to be on their own and like, hey, give me an assistant buyer's agent, I'm good, and figure out where they're at. What's a niche that you want to try and like get into?
I think, my first one is going to be first-time home buyers, and a lot of people say that. However, I feel very strongly about helping that niche, because I was a first-time home buyer recently. I've been through it. Makes me relatable. Makes me also feel like I know what I'm doing and I've been in their shoes. So I think people like being able to relate to that. And I am younger, so I think people are able to relate to me in that aspect as well. So I just love, it's a teacher in me, so I appreciate and can do a lot of the teaching and education. So I also like that as well, because being a first-time home buyer, you don't know what to expect. You're like, okay, great, we're under contract. Where do we go now? So, helping and guide them along the way is fun for me too, because it brings me back to like my teaching roots, so.
I say every realtor should have bought a home before they get their license, so they can understand the experience of what they go through. We're buying a property right now ourselves, and I'm just like, it's been, 4 years since I bought something. And I just like, God, it's so painful. Like, I feel bad for the buyers, and I'm worse because I'm self-employed and I've got, money moving in accounts, like all different directions. And like, what's this deposit to here? I'm like, who cares? There's money in the account. But no, you have to trace how you tied your last shoelace to be able to get approved. And so you can talk to the buyers about the process. If I bought a home 27 years ago and that was the last time I bought something, I don't know what the process is like, so I think it's great. And that's a good niche, because what first-time buyers become? Sellers, move up buyers. So you're talking 5 years from now, you want to start, diving into some more things. Well, those buyers that you're selling today, they're buying that more expensive home 5 years from now. That's where you start to see your repeat and referral business. That's your repeat stuff. So, people that are getting married, next year, and they just bought their first home. Now all of a sudden they're pregnant. Now they need that extra bedroom. So now we need to go ahead and move up. So you'll start to experience that 2 to 3 years into this business, a lot of that. And that's my business today, is people that I've sold 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I've got some families we've helped buy 5, 6, 7 houses, and those aren't investments; those are primaries, and they've just been slowly upgrading, or hey, we need change, and so that's a big thing. I think if you want to start in your career as a first-time home buyer specialist, because that'll turn into like the move up buyers, and you obviously you continue on. So
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Well, Brooke, I appreciate you jumping on here today. A lot of good advice, team versus no team. Maybe one more question, because I want to dig at your head as much as I can, at your brain. So agents going on their own, what advice would you give them?
Agents going on their own, I think just have a plan, because I think when everything falls under your umbrella, you're responsible for your transactions from the start to beginning. You're responsible for marketing. You're responsible for this, that, and the other, and putting money aside for tax. You're everything when you're an agent. So I think just have a plan in all those areas. And we recently went through coaching, some real estate coaching that it really changed the game for me, is just a time block and to really sit down and plan your business. Because if you don't have that plan for your business, then you have no goal, you have no direction. So I think the team helps me in that aspect to stay accountable on those things, and to make sure not only we're aligning with the team, but we're also aligning as individual agents. At the end of the day, even though I'm on the team, I'm still my own agent. I still have my own business, and I need to promote that, and need to do my own marketing stuff as well. And, that's a whole nother conversation, but just, I guess my answer is just to have that plan and to have that goal and direction, knowing that you might not be in collaboration necessarily with a team. With that being said, also, I think there are a ton of other people who are individual agents, who are also in the similar situation. So, have a buddy, have a mentor, have a person you go get coffee with and catch up and learn from each other, since you don't have that team aspect. Make that team aspect, or at least have people around you so you can learn from. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Make that team aspect. You find that other agent, maybe maybe they're 3 years in the business, 5 years in the business. Just find somebody that you respect and admire, and try and dive into them and learn as much as you can.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great one. So, well, good stuff, Brooke, and I really appreciate you diving in today. Guys, appreciate the show today. We'll be back on next Friday at 11 with another team member talking about why a team model works. Appreciate everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Todd.